Right, hello everybody. Right, after a day of airbrushing a load of commission work tanks, about 15 of them, I thought we'd have a look at this one. This might be a bit more interesting. So this is a very old Airfix Westland Whirlwind kit in 72nd scale. This particular one is from 1967, although the tooling is from 1958. So in my ever ongoing quest to destroy people's collections, I'm going to build this one. Now I've actually been inside the packet already and it is missing the canopy. I don't know why it's always the canopies that are missing on these kits. But I've been on a nice Facebook group page and someone's got a spare one and they're going to send it out, so I might as well get on with the build. So these are the old sort of way Airfix used to do their kits. You usually used to be hanging up in like post offices and places like that, in the bags or the blister packs which came out later. But with this you get a nice bit of history on the Westland Whirlwind, which was a fantastic plane. Great concept. Way ahead of its time, but unfortunately it never got the Merlin engines put in, so it never really reached its potential, and it never really did. Well, it could have been a real bomber killer with a nose full of dirty grade guns, but never mind, it never got there. Obviously the RAF went ahead with Spitfires, Hurricanes, and moved into Typhoons and Tempests and things like that. So what you get with this, you get the fold out sheet and the instructions are inside it, if I can get the damn thing open. So this is the old style of Airfix instructions. So you get a nice little drawing there. You get written instructions on what to do as well. I mean, this is a pretty simple, straightforward kit. So it's not going to tax anyone in particular. I just want to see what we can do with this. This kit was retooled in 1977. So when I bought this one, I've had built that retooled one several times in the past. I mean, a long time ago now, and I thought it was a pretty decent kit. So when I got this one opened, I thought, oh, not as good as I remember, but I did know it was retooled in 1977. So this is the 1958 kit. We'll have a look what's inside. As you're going to expect, it's pretty basic. It comes with transfers as well. I mean, they look okay actually, but we'll try them. We'll see how they go down. I mean, they look okay-ish. They're a bit yellow, but I think I'll leave them out of the packet. Get some sunlight on it. I mean, I'm saying get some sunlight on it. We're in England in October. It's not really getting much sunlight. So I'll put it in the window frame, or on the windowsill, and see if that brightens up a bit. I do have the stand, though. The stand came with it. Fairly straightforward one. Not as complex as the Matchbox one, but again, these are from 1958, so I'm not sure whether I'll try it on the stand or not. But we have, I look at the wing, got some rudimentary panel lines, something to go at. Big old ejector pin marks, so we'll get rid of that. Like I said, I'm not going to go too mad with this, too over the top. Just want to see what sort of effect we can get. And a 1958 kit, loads of flash on that. I mean, we are talking Airfix style flash here from the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and in the 90s. And sometimes in the 2000s as well, but never mind. The Canon are pretty poor, but we'll see what we can get out of this thing. So I'll basically start with the cockpit. I can probably glue that together without putting the pilot in, put the pilot in afterwards, because I don't think there's any instrument panel. But that is not bad. It's not a bad fit. Right, oh, I think we'll oh, there's the hole there for the stand, so I might fill that in or not. I might keep it in. I'm going to put it on its stand. Yeah, what the hell? Let's go for it. Let's put it on its stand. So I'll leave that gap there. I'll get the glue out, and we'll see how it glues together. Obviously, I've spilled some glue today, as you can see on me cutting mat. Right, let's get building and see what we can get. Right, we have our major components glued together. So that's the fuselage, oh Christ, easy to see, fuselage halves gone together. Now this glued together okay, it's not too bad. Not much of a seam line, but we'll sort that out. So that should be okay to clean up. Nose went on okay. The glued together fine, that. The engine nacelles, not brilliant. Very difficult to glue together. I had to clamp them. For some reason the glue wasn't operating very well. Now, because I'm going to put the undercarriage up and use the stand, I've used the doors that come with the kit. There's such a poor fit. So they're kind of like, basically, they sort of fit where they touch, basically. So that's going to be all filleted in. The main wings went together okay, and they've got the nice crank on the wings, so they've done that quite well. So they should be okay. Again, these are, yeah, they're going to take some filling to sort these gaps out, but I'm going to fill them, smooth them. I'm going to sort of paint the panel lines in rather than rescribe them, just to give you an impression of panel lines more rather than doing them. The tail planes, again, big old sink mark, needs filling and sanding. I've started that one already. The pilot has got to be one of the worst pilots I've ever seen. However, I'm not going to replace him. I'm going to put him in his plane. He's been with his plane since 1960 whatever. So I think it's time he got to fly his plane. So we're going to put him in his plane. Quite happy with that. The canopy, right, and now I didn't have a canopy with a kit for some reason, and someone's lost it along the way. However, I went on a modelling website on Facebook, a Facebook group, Airfix, the Airfix group on Facebook, and put out a little call onto the group if anyone had a canopy for a Whirlwind of this vintage, and someone called Simon came to the rescue, and this is it. Now, it's not the best. It looks a bit brittle. It's got paint on it. It's a bit flat and dull, but I'm going to polish that out, polish it up. It's not a bad fit on the fuselage itself, so I don't think we're going to have many issues with that, but it is dull, cloudy and painted. It is very old, but I'm sure that'll polish up just fine. Like I say, we're not going to town with this. We're just going to give the impression of panel lines. We're going to clean it all up. We're going to fill all these massive trenches on the nacelles, flatten them all down, sand them, prime them, and like I said, I'm going to paint in the impression of doors and things like that. The same with panel lines. I'm going to accentuate the elevators and stuff like that, just by paintwork. I might obviously drill out possibly the exhausts as well. Like I say, I'm not going to go too over the top with it. I've got much more interesting project. Well, this is an interesting project, but much more complicated, nicely detailed kits to get on with. So the filler of choice, let's move my lamp out of the way, is going to be Tamiya, or putty, or bodge, or catty, or filler, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to be pretty liberal with it. This is how I'll do it. Just bang a load on my knife, on my scalpel. So, and just basically smear it in. I'll probably have to like sand it flat and then go over it again, then prime it. And then I think we should get pretty smooth effect. So I'll do that with all the spaces, all the gaps. Then I'll show you how I sand them off. So you want to try and keep it as smooth as you can. And like I say, it's not easy on this kit. The plastic it's a weird plastic. It's like almost aerated when you cut the plastic open, when you have a look at it. And it didn't work, like I said, it didn't work very well with modern glues. But it'll go together nicely and we'll have a nice little vintage kit. So there we go, we're going mad with the filler. I've got these sanding sticks in this pot here. They're from, I think it's Flory Models or PM Models, one of the two. I don't know if they do them anymore, but they're quite good. So what I want to do is try and keep the profile and the shape. So that's why I use a wider sanding stick. So I'm trying to keep the profile and the shape of the nacelle. What's the right way of saying it? So I'll sand all them back. We'll see what it looks like. Might have to put more filler in again. And then we'll try and construct the kit. And we'll go from there. We'll get some paint on it. Get some primer on it, I should say. And see what else we need to do. But I'll crack on with that. And we'll see what we'll look like once I've sanded all these down. Right, so there's a lot of dust everywhere. So that's what we're ending up with at the minute. I'm going to give them another skim of filler. And then we'll flatten them off again. And then we'll get some primer on it and get the wings on. That was a scrape clean, so that's not too bad. The nose I've gone over again to smooth that out, but I think another round of filler. We'll let that dry and then we'll send them back and then we'll get the thing assembled. So I've glued the wings together and I've given it a quick blast of primer, but we still have some issues on the model. I'll see if we can get a good look at them. Particularly like we still have an issue. We've got some steps here and some issues obviously there still to sort out. So I'll go in with a filler again and try and get the shape right. I'm going to have to get rid of these steps across the bottom of the wing plane there. We have a couple of seems to sort out there where the nacelles hit the wings. The tailplane's not too bad. I might just give another skim over. The nose is spot on actually. That's smoothed in quite nicely. So I'll fill them in a bit again, sand them back with a slightly finer grade. We'll give another coat of varnish, but not varnish, primer, and we'll get some paint on it because it looks okay actually. The shape, I don't think the shape's really that accurate, but it's not too bad. We know it's a Whirlwind. It is from 1958, so I'm not going to be too hard on them. Let's get these the rest of these seams filled in and sanded back and shaped correctly, and we'll get some paint on it. Right, so I'm quite pleased with that. It's quite a nice smooth finish. Now I've gone over with primer and filled all the gaps on the holes. A couple of little steps there, but I'm going to live with that. But I'm quite happy with that. So the next port of call is to do the cockpit. So I'm just going to spray. I've got some tanks to spray in a minute, but at the same time I'll spray the interior black and then just airbrush in some interior grey, just to give it the impression of shade and depth. I mean, there's no seat, there's no instrument panel, there's no sidewall detail. So, you know, it's just going to give you an impression. Then we have the figure to paint. So, it's got to be the worst figure I've ever seen, but how flat he is, oh dear. So I'll get him painted up and we'll get him in the stuck in the cockpit. Then after that, we're going to put the canopy on, seal it all up and then get the paint on. So we'll get that done, but the canopy, like I say, that was donated, well, paid for, but donated by someone on a model group on Facebook. So it's going to need some work, it's going to need some polishing. It is dull, it has got paint on it, and I think it's quite brittle. But I think that'll recover and it'll be all right. So first things first, I'll give the cockpit some paint. I'll get the pilot block painted in, get him stuck in, and then I'll show you where we end up, and I'll show you how to polish the canopy and how we can get that installed, and then we'll get that masked up and get some paint on it. Otherwise, that's not looking too bad. The shape's meh, but it certainly looks like a Whirlwind. Well, it does to me. Right, these are the base colours I'm going to use. I'm going to use AK grey green for the cockpit and the dark earth and the dark green for the standard camouflage, and sky for underneath. That's the Tamiya one. So modern paints for an ancient kit. So I've got some interior green on the airbrush there. So I've already got black on the inside, as you can see. I'll move the light a bit. It's winter time in England, so we're under artificial lights now. So basically just going to airbrush some of the green in, just to give the impression, and basically let it fade out to the front of the cockpit and the back of the cockpit to give an impression of sort of depth and shadow. There we go. So only the airbrush will kind of give you that effect. I'm going to live with that. Put a bit more on the floor, I think. Right, I think that'll do. Right, so I've done the pilot. I'll show you him briefly. That's best I can do with that. So I'll stick him in. Then the next thing we're going to move on to is the cockpit glass, the canopy, and we're going to try and clean that and get some sort of resemblance of some sort of clear canopy. And that's what we end up with. There he is, sitting in his cockpit. He'll get the flies playing after 60 or so years in the box. Right, now we're going to move on to this. This is going to be tricky. So we need to clean this up, polish it, get rid of the paint, and try and make it look half decent. It actually looks all right through the phone than it does in real life. So first I'm going to try and clean it just with some warm water and some soap, basically in the cotton bud. We'll just see what that looks like. I do have some polishers, but I don't want to go too hard on the polishers just yet, because this feels quite brittle, this canopy. So it might polish up okay just with warm water and soap. So I'll give that a little rub down. But we do need to somehow try and remove this paint. Right, so It's doing okay, but the paint's still on. That might be okay, but like I said, I do need to remove that paint. So that's not too bad. Like I say, I can't find me good polish to get rid of that. I do have some Auto Glim resin polish. It might not be up to the job to do that, so we'll give that a go. I'll not stop the video, I'll just pour a little bit out and then I'll have a little go with that. So that's what I'm going to use for that. Auto Glim super resin polish. I do have some G4 about somewhere, but I can't seem to find it. I've already been in the shed, I've been in the garage, still can't see it. I'll put a little bit out in the cotton bud and we'll see if it'll take the paint off. Like I say, I don't want to push on too hard because I think it's quite brittle. Right, I'll work on that for a bit and then we'll come back and see what I can do with it. And with a little bit of work, look at that. That has come up quite nicely. I'm quite pleased with that. There's a little bit of black still left on there, but obviously I'm going to mask that up. That's going to be painted. But otherwise, that, I would say, is a success. Right, okay, so it's late on a Friday night. We'll have a quick update. So as you can see, the canopy has been masked. Liquid Maskall's gone on there to protect the clear part. Glued it on with PVA glue, so it dries nice and clear. I've already given the tail band a quick blast over with Sky from Tamiya. That bad boy there. I've masked it up, so we've got the band masks. I'm now just going to give it a quick blast over of green. Again, we're using AK stuff, so AK RAF dark green, nice and straightforward, and a real colour AK thinners. So like I say, I've already got the airbrush loaded up with some paint. We'll just give it a quick once over. Right, so I'll continue giving that the once over and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. So that's the green, that's dried nice and smooth. So we're going to mask off the green to airbrush the brown on. We'll go with the instructions that's supplied with the kit, but I think this bit should be masked off as well because I think that should be brown in there to sort of mirror image the port wing. So as per the old Airfix key, they had like different sorts of textures, so you got dots or horizontal lines, which donated different parts of the painting guide. Sometimes they're quite difficult to differentiate. So what I'm going to do with the Maskall, Humbrol Maskall there, which I really find really good, like a masking fluid. So we're going to go over the model and just with an old paintbrush sort of like try and follow the contours of what the instructions say. So I'll just quickly give you a quick example. So we'll get some of this on there, and so it can get a nice flow to it, and basically just go to the edge of the wing. You can put quite a bit of this on, it's okay, just make sure it doesn't like run off and spoil your masking. Right, so I'll do the rest of the, oh, was that in focus? Anyway, I'll do the rest of the model and we'll let it dry. In fact, I'll do the rest of the model, then I'll go and cut the grass, then I'll come back and we'll see what it looks like. Right, there we go. So that's the Maskall on and the grass cut at the same time. Last cut of the year, I think. It's getting late in October, so I don't think I'm going to cut any more time this year. So that's the Maskall on. Looks a bit untidy. You might notice I do work, I think I'm quite an untidy modeler, but I do always bring it together at the end. So I've got the brown, the AK brown, dark earth I should say. Yep, dark earth, RAF dark earth. So what we're going to do, we're just going to get some of that on here. Nice coverage, nice colour as well. Now it's likely I'm going to have to touch in with the paintbrush once this is dry and I've taken the Maskall off. which isn't a problem. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and get things wrong from time to time. You can always recover. I mean, look at the Brewster Buffalo I did. That was disaster from from the start, but I managed to pull it together at the end. Right, so I'm going to spray this, get the dark earth on. I'm going to take the dogs out for a walk, let that dry, then we'll take the mask all off. Right, so that's the dark earth dry. That's the two dogs walked at the same as well. So let's take some of this mask all off. Now always try and roll it towards the paint edge. See if I can demonstrate. Get the light across here. So just roll it towards that and you usually get a decent edge. And then we're always going to go and touch up with a paintbrush as well. Now when I go in and start touching up with the paintbrush, I'm going to start adding like panel lines as well. So there we go. Yeah, so that's not perfect, but as you can see, just go and sort some edgings out with a paintbrush. I mean, like I said, never be afraid to like try and rectify a mistake or just incorporate a mistake into the build. Everything's fixable. I'll just pull off one of the Canopy masks, and we'll just see what it looks like. I don't want to leave the mask all on too long on the Canopy because I don't know how it's going to react to the plastic, which is very, very old. So I can pull that off with these. It's not my best tweezers for doing this. I'll change to these ones, the little pointy ones. Yeah, so I have to walk the two dogs. Got two dogs, two rescue dogs, and I have to walk them separately because we've got one. It's just a complete head case, wants to attack everything. I mean, she's only a King Charles Spaniel, so she's not going to do any damage to anything. And the other one's a Border Collie who's terrified of his own shadow. So if you walk the pair together, it's quite challenging, put it that way. So the King Charles Spaniel's all over the place, and the Border Collie just wants to come home. So one's scared of fallen leaves, and one wants to attack the fallen leaves. So that's what I've got to put up with. But anyway, that's dogs for you. Just get rid of that one there, and that looks, oh look at that, nice straight edge. So I'll take all that off, all the mask off, and I'll start touching in the green and the brown to get it looking how I want it to look, and I'll start adding like slightly different color shades, different shades of green and the brown to start adding depth and texture. And we're going to start putting some pan lines in. Like I say, the pan lines are only going to go in as a suggestion. I'm not actually putting lines in them. It's going to be like a painterly effect. Okay, right, so I'll take them off and we'll see what we end up with. But I'm quite pleased with that line on the Canopy, so it's going to look very nice. So we have our basic colours on there. I've just masked the Canopy up again. Just I'm going to go with the airbrush again. So that's the basic colours on. Looks all right. But obviously look how flat and bland the panels are. So I'm going to go in with the airbrush again. So on the greens, I'll load up with a slightly darker green and sort of like airbrush very slight different shades of diagonal lines. I mean, you can see where there's sort of like a ghost of a line there to sort of suggest panel lines. And again, underneath is totally pretty blank. So again, I'll do that with the sky colours. Just make it slightly darker. Airbrush along these areas here on the ailerons, and then across on the upper. God, I totally forget what the name of things are on aeroplanes when you're trying to speak just off the cuff. But on the flappy bits on the back, so they're going to get a variation of the green, the sky, and the brown. Then I'll go in with a brush and sort of like I did with the Brewster Buffalo on that other video. Again, just to suggest panel lines. Then I'll go in with black for exhaust streaks and oil streaks and things like that, and certainly around the nose where the cannons will obviously dirty up the front of the nose when they're fired. Now I'm going to try this. I've had this 4 years. I've had loads of this paint, Autowear. I basically used this for doing airbrushing like motorbikes, bike helmets, that sort of thing. I had loads of this stuff, loads of different colours. I don't know where the hell they went. I probably lost them about 15 years ago. But for some reason I've still got this. Now this is called transparent. These are one of the transparent paints. I don't know if these are still available, Autowear. They were based in California, I think. But it sprays. This is if you wanted to do shade and stuff like that on artwork. It's a very subtle black, but it's quite transparent colour, so it's very controllable. So I've just put a little bit on the tile there and spread out, so you see it's quite opaque, so you can it's got good control for like airbrush artwork. So I'm going to try that on like exhaust streaks and a bit on you know, the deeper panel lines, just to give a bit more depth to the model. And then after that, we're going to see if these are going to work. I really want to get on to see if these are going to work. So I want to get this done now, get some additional paintwork on a bit more depth, and then we're going to try these transfers, see if they work. So I'll fire up the airbrush, I'll do a little bit more work on this, and then we'll try the transfers. I'll get a coat of gloss varnish on it, and then we'll see if these transfers work. And voila, that's the effect I was looking for. A bit subtle, not too over the top, so it gives you the impression of panel lines when there aren't any panel lines actually there. Underneath as well, it doesn't show up so well on the camera phone, just because of the lightness of the colour. But otherwise, if you can see, so it gives, like I say, it gives you the impression of panel lines without panel lines being there. So next thing I'm going to do is give the whole model a coat of gloss varnish with Canopy and all. The whole lot's going to get that. And then we're going to attempt these transfers, which must be minimum 55-year-old, maybe more, because it's a 1958 kit, but this is a 1967 edition, I think. So yeah, older than me now. Unbelievable. Right, let's get some gloss varnish on that, then we'll get some warm water, and then we'll see if these transfers disintegrate or actually work. Right, we now have some movement. It took a couple of extra minutes, but as you can see, there's a crack on the E there. So we'll try and put this on. See, it slides quite nicely. So the Whirlwind's really glossy, so this should slide on quite nicely. We're about there. So I'll get a bit more water on, because this, I think it sits a bit further forward. In a moment of truth, going to get the knife on it to try and slide it. That looks all right, actually. Referring to the reference, so it needs to go up a little bit and a bit more to the right. I've still got to get a serial number in their mind. So it's going to be a bit of a tight squeeze, but I think squeeze some of the water off there. That might be all right. So I'll put the rest of the transfers on. We'll see how it dries, but I think that might be okay. So it's not sitting particularly flat, and there's a lot of carrier film, but like I say, it's on a really nice glossy surface. I'll see what it's like when it dries, whether it wants any transfer solution or anything like that. If not, I'm just going to go with another coat of matte varnish over to seal them in. And there's obviously the cannon to put on, a bit of chipping, a bit of weather, and a little bit of exhaust stain to do, matte varnish to go on, and I think we can put it on its stand. We'll get it up on YouTube so you can all have a look. Just on another matter, I will be done with Telford on the 9th of November this year. So if anyone wants to pop along, say hello, just give us a shout and in the comment section, and we'll meet up, have a chat, talk about models. Otherwise, I'll get on with the rest of this, and we'll see what we end up with. It's looking pretty good. I'm quite pleased with that. Well, I think the transfers have been a success. They've gone down quite well. I put a little coat of gloss varnish on them again, just to seal them in. The roundels on the wings have faded a little bit, but I'm not too bothered about that. I've had a bit of an issue with a little bit there, but that was me being impatient, so that's nothing to do with the transfers, that's my fault. But for transfers that are like, I don't know, 60-odd-year-old, maybe more, they performed perfectly well. Very happy with that. Now, I've done a little bit extra on the model. I've put a little scuff mark, scratch marks with the green paint, just touching in slightly areas here, there, and everywhere, just to make it look a bit more worn. I've given it a little dry brush, sort of in the wing root areas, over the tail plane and the wings, again, just to give it a slightly scuffed appearance. All I've got left to do now is do the propellers, which I've almost finished them, and the cannon for the nose. Again, they're done, nearly ready to go on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mask up the canopy. Now, in fact, I'm going to put the guns on, the propellers on. I'm just going to glue them on. They're not going to be turning. I'm going to give it a coat of matte varnish, and I'll give it a couple more scratches here and there, maybe a bit of silver pencil around the cockpit area. I'll put the aerial on, and I think, oh yeah, I might airbrush some streaks, some stains for the exhaust, do the radiators because they need painting, and otherwise that's it, we'll be done. So I'll finish that tonight. I'll try and get this video up tomorrow, which is going to be the 30th of November, October, sorry, no, October. Yeah, we're nearly in November, who can believe it? And then we'll move on to something else, but I think I've quite enjoyed that project. So I'll finish this off and I'll give you my final thoughts. Right, now we have it, we are complete. I've finished the model, I have put the guns on. So I've got four 20mm cannons in the nose. I've drilled out the barrels, just add a little bit extra detail. The propellers and spinners went on, which are moulded as one, but they're a bit too big for the model. As you can see, there's a bit of oversize in there. Canopy's all masked up and glossed, mask taken off and glossed up. The aerials have been put on, and the name's got on the stand there as well. So I've used the Airfix stand. Right, so the kit, really old, 1958 kit, 1967 mold, 1967 issue, I think. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Actually fitted together pretty well. I was quite impressed by the fuselage, the way the wings went together. The undercarriage doors were a nightmare, obviously, but I think they're not really meant to be closed up, but you can get away with it if you want to put it on the stand. The pilot's in his cockpit seat there, flying his plane for the first time in 60 years or so. Radiators are all done, and a little bit of scratch work I've put on the wing root and the canopy, the cockpit side. But otherwise, that's it. Final thoughts are, nice little enjoyable project. A really lovely looking plane. I'm quite surprised this didn't go on to be quite a devastating fighter in the Battle of Britain. A couple of Merlin engines, I think, a bit of development, and that would have been quite a fast, ferocious bomber killer, this, I think. But never mind, they went with the Spitfires and the Hurricanes and Defiance, and went with 303. Then eventually went back to 20mm cannons. But imagine that. 4 20mm cannons against the on the Battle of Britain. I think the German bombers would have suffered horrendously, but never mind. It never really went into mass production, never really got developed to the standard it could possibly have been. But there we go, that's the Airfix kit. The Airfix 1/72 scale Westland Whirlwind, very old one. I'd like to thank someone who gave us the canopy. I'll tag it in the I'll put this on the Airfix Facebook page, and I'll tag it in it to thank you for the canopy. Otherwise, I'll put some pictures up at the end. Very enjoyable little build, and it'll go with all my vintage models, my old Matchbox ones, so I'll put that with that, and it can hold its own with them. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll put some images up now.